was interesting. It was stressful. I'm still kind of in the party phase of that, of elation and pride in receiving accreditation. It was a 7-year process. Our faculty members, our instructional team have revised our entire curriculum, so we own all of our programs. They were made from the college here. Everyone played a part as we had different accreditation teams. I know that we all feel a lot of pride and a lot of happiness.
You know what this means? Touchdown! Give yourself a hand. 7 years and about $300,000, and we are a stand-alone accredited college. Give yourself a hand. That's amazing. Okay. All right, that's it. Finish the video, we'll go home. You are nothing short of amazing. This college has been nothing short of amazing, let me tell you. I am so proud to be a part of this group and part of what's happening here in the Western Treasure Valley. And this is the State of the College address today, but we're going to mix it up a little bit. Quite frankly, we have achieved more in the last 7-8 years than a lot of schools achieve in a decade. And that's a compliment to you. And we're here today to talk about not only what we've done and where we've been and what the kinds of accomplishments that we've had, but what kinds of things we're moving into. Welcome to the 2017 State of the College Address. Thank you for coming. I want to thank, we have two of our board members, board chair, Mark Dunham, Please stand and be recognized. We have Board Chair Skip Smizer. Please stand and be recognized. We also have from the Department of PTE, Dwight Johnson. Thank you very much for coming out today as well. Thank you for showing up this morning. Thank you for coming out today. We really do appreciate it. We are here to talk about you. We're here to talk about us. And it's not really a State of the College address where I should be talking to you or at you. It should be more of a conversation about what we are all about and where we're going and what's going on. I really do want to change it up. Can you turn the house lights on? Turn the house lights on, okay? First of all, I want to recognize a couple other people. Audrey, will you stand up? And Jess, you two stand. Give them a hand. I want to acknowledge them because after a while you're going to go, why does he keep looking at them? Why does he keep looking at them? Hold up the first sign, okay? But the fact of the matter, I'd like to talk with you and not at you. And we have some great information that we're going to share today. And the first thing has to do with change. We have been from day one. You all know that have been here from day one. Oh, I also want to recognize, because we'll forget this too. I've got Mariah and Ashley and Judd. Stand up, recognize. They're running this whole thing. They put this whole thing together with Audrey. And Ross is up in the back. Thanks, Michael. Having a president come out and be, everybody goes, oh boy, that was amazing. We are amazing. We have been a change agent since day one. You that know here, we've never had the same table of organization that's lasted 2 years. We've changed our table. Yeah, we got head shaking down. I know that one. Every year we change our organizational structure. Every year we change our operational structure. And I'm here to tell you that it's not going to end. We're just at the beginning. And if you've watched the national news or the local news or what's going on today, we are the model actually for change agents and for how a college can adapt, adjust, and realign itself to meet the local need. And that's where a community college is so valuable to the community, is that we can make that adjustment quickly, effectively, and higher ed is entering into a new era. If you haven't read or heard about it, for the first time in the history, 200 years of education, higher education, we are going to experience change like we've never experienced change in higher education before. We're going to be asked to be accountable and responsible like we've never been asked to be accountable and responsible before. We're going to ask to change how our delivery system is. We're going to have to change how we even structure ourselves and how we think of higher education in the future. That's going to be a challenge for schools that are 50, 60, 70 years old. And there are going to be some schools that aren't going to make it. Just a prediction. Some schools aren't going to make it. Chronicle of Higher Ed just recently announced that it showed that there were over 1,400 liberal arts colleges 10 years ago. Today, there's less than 400. Change is occurring whether we recognize it, understand it, and get it or not. So, quote. How many? Oh, no, wait a minute, back up one. Here, I wanted to, where's the one with the, yeah. How many recognize this classroom? Miss Peterson, my third grade class. I was there, right there in the front. She always had me in the front. She liked me. She wanted me close. I started out in the back, but she says, no, you need to be right here where I can reach you. Okay? Today, many of you, how many of you remember your first day in class? Not your first grade class, but, well, how many of you remember your first grade class? That's amazing, too. How many of you remember that when you graduated from high school, maybe you didn't go right on to college right away, you took a year or two, and then you came back and went back in the classroom? How many remember that experience? Pretty frightening, isn't it? What do we know about change for sure? The human condition is that change induces fear. And there's two things that happen when a human condition is fearful. One hand, you can become paralyzed. On the other hand, it can be exhilarating. Now, I got to tell you something. These people over here have got it made. Because if you're paralyzed by change and the fear of change, you're going to be paralyzed in this next 2 or 3 year period that we're going through. And you're going to struggle. And we need to get work groups together that help people work through this process of change is going to occur. We are not going to do business as we've done business just in the last 8 years. We're going to do business differently. And that's probably easier for us to embrace than it is for a college that's 50 years old or 60 years old or 70 years old. But it's going to happen whether we like it or not. With that, the Darwin quote that came up early was, quite frankly, change it's not to the strong, and it's not necessarily to the brightest or the best IQ. It's to those that can adapt and can adapt quickly that success is going to occur. So let's put that in our thought process in terms of the quicker we can adapt, the quicker we can adjust, the quicker we can make the changes, the more successful we're going to be and the better we're going to be in terms of serving the community. And that's our whole job. What you've done in the last 8 years in terms of changing people's lives, I know I've used that buzzword every year, but we have changed people's lives for dynamic purposes literally forever. But what you do on a day-to-day basis in changing people's lives is phenomenal. You have provided opportunities for students to be successful that never thought there was even an opportunity to be successful, let alone could they and can they and what they can do once they get there. You've got people to start believing in themselves again and making a difference in other people's lives. You have no idea the magnitude of what has happened in this valley. And I got to tell you, we are looked upon, CWI is looked upon as a huge resource in that regard. Next slide. Oh yeah, we have to talk about money. We couldn't possibly leave here without talking about money. You all know, or you're aware, just so for those that haven't been around for 8 years, the entire experience of having students on campus, when we first started out, our revenue stream was student tuition and fees was 51% of our revenue stream. We were literally almost operating as a private proprietary school. 51% of our revenue was coming from student tuition and fees, and that's when it was That's when it was $119 a credit. We're now at $139 a credit. And it's only 40% now. State funding is another area that we really, I will talk with at length. I will not be able to give you an exact number, but right now we know that our state funding is around 34%, which includes the liquor fund, the CTE allocation, and the general fund. And if you've read the paper at all, the last 3 months, I sit on a committee with the other presidents and 35 other people from the community, legislators and otherwise, that have been talking about the new higher ed task force that's going to come up with a new funding formula. And the new funding formula is going to embrace a concept called outcomes-based funding. And we're going to get to outcomes-based funding in that the state of Idaho is looking at degrees, certificates, and diploma are how we would get paid. Not on the 24,000 students we're serving, not on the remediation that we're taking care of, not on the community service that we're providing to the community. Degrees, certificates, and diplomas are the only way we'll get paid in the future. How does that change how we operate? Dramatically how we operate. Because if that's the only way to get money, one of the big keys that we're going to talk about, and this is in a double side as well, where our customer is asking us, students are asking us the same kind of questions about, I can't afford a student debt of $100,000 and then go to work for $40,000 a year. Can't afford to do it. These two dynamics are going to change higher education in the next 3 to 5 years, and in the next 10 years, it's going to change it dramatically. The other funding sources we have is property tax, and our Board of Trustees have struggled with that in terms of saying, we were founded, and I got to compliment the trustees that started here from day one. The two things that they held in high was student success was the #1 priority, student success. And a component of that student success was that we had affordable access. Because opportunity occurred in this valley because we were affordable and we were accessible. Anybody can come to a community college. I don't know how many senators, legislators, I don't know how many community people said, and in fact, when we were doubling and tripling in size every semester, they would ask me, where'd these people come from? And the fact of the matter is, the people already been here. What they didn't have was an opportunity of affordable access and an opportunity to come to a college, whether they had a 3.5 and all the extra credit in the world or not. We took them all. We take everybody in. And that's the amazing part of CWI's growth, is that we take everybody in, and within a period of time, we actually turn them into a productive, tax-paying citizen. And that can change the economy of an entire city. Cities, actually, we're in a valley. Self-support, grants and contracts, and by the way, congratulations, we just crossed over the mark. Now that we're accredited, that is such a big deal. I hope you all understand what being accredited means. We have our own programs, and we can go after our own federal funding and go after our own state funding grants. We no longer go through CSI, and they are so pleased to hear that. We also are the largest community college in the state. We are, though, no longer the newest. There's a brand new community college. Idaho Eastern College used to be ITech, Eastern Idaho Technical College. It became a college, I think, last week. It'll go through the legislative session to get its name changed. They are spoiled. As a technical college, they're already accredited. Shoot. So they won't go through this 7-year process and the $300,000 to get accredited. They're already accredited. All they need to have is a, David, what's it called? You don't know, okay. I told a bunch of people I was going to call on them because we're going to have a conversation. I'm not going to lecture to you all day. Not a venue change. Mascot. A what? Mascot. No, they have a mascot too. I know that. They don't have any sports teams either. Northwest Accrediting Association automatically rolls their accreditation over. All they have is a change of, I don't know what it is, change of, so they're going to become a community college inadvertently. They just roll it over, and it happens. And surprisingly, they have a campus with 9 buildings. Crap. So that's why I call them the spoiled newborn. And you know, if you've ever had siblings, the youngest one always gets all the attention, right? Well, we're going to blow the lid off that. Let's go to the next slide, please. Enrollment. Let's take a good close look at this. Yes, we're increasing in enrollment. And by the way, I can only say this morning that we have in our new class group coming in, we're on track to have 20... We're on track to be up. I can't give any numbers. I've been cut off from the numbers. Tony won't let me use financial numbers. The student services won't let me use enrollment numbers. I don't know why we're meeting. We are up. We are looking to be very healthy in new students, a new class group coming in this fall, which is great. We still have kind of the leakage in the retention process, so we may be flat or down overall. I want to point out in particular, notice career and technical. In 2012, we were 1419, now we're at 1209. So there has been a reduction in career and technical during that time frame. In academic, we've gone from 9,700 to 8,300. There's been a change in that over time. We'll explain some of that as well. Our growth areas, CWI's growth areas are very clearly dual credit. Thank you, Mother. It's a double-edged sword, by the way. The next slide will tell us why. Dual credit, Dual credit, oh, wait a minute, I haven't finished this slide yet. Dual credit. Workforce is obviously up. It's on a huge growth pattern. And then basic skills is down a little bit. We can go to the next slide now. Okay. Degrees and certificates. One of the things I want to point out, which is a new thing, and it's a new adjustment which is going to happen to academic, professional, technical, and all the way around the board. If you'll notice in the bottom right here on 2017, it says 81 academic certificates. That's okay, you can applaud, that's good. Degrees, without changing the quality. I will tell you something, that's one of my biggest concerns with a statewide structure that says we're only going to pay you for this. One of the keys, the only way we maintain credibility with business and industry, the only way we maintain credibility in our community relations is to have quality of services. If we don't have certificates that are quality value added to the student and value added to the business, the industry, or the customer along the way, or value added to the university that it moves forward with credibility, we don't have anything. So it's critical that we have the quality of the program in place as well. But as you notice, we have dropped a little bit. We are going to recover that. We will recover that, and we will get back into a growth pattern in terms of those areas. Next slide, please. This is the double-edged sword of dual credit. Academic enrollment is down. We can actually put that to a track and say part of the reason academic enrollment is down is because dual credit has gone through the roof. What is it? 134,542 credit hours in academic and CTE, 45,306 in dual credit. What's the challenge with dual credit? What does the student pay? $65 a credit, as opposed to $139 a credit. CSI announced at the last ICCC meeting, 47% of their enrollment is now dual credit. 47% of their enrollment is now paying $65 a credit as opposed to $139. You don't think that affects budgets and how we operate? We have to watch this very, very carefully. Not that it is important that we offer as much dual credit as possible because of the student services, because of providing students the opportunity to move quickly. Will it change the dynamic of the community college? Quite likely it will. Because if in the next 2 to 3 years, if we start having students come to us that have 30, 40, 50 credits already, what are we doing? We're adding 30 or 40 and passing them on to the university. That doesn't qualify as really a 2-year college when all we're doing is capping off those degrees and passing them on. And in some cases, some of these students don't even come here. They'll go straight to the university out of their dual credit programs. And that's another challenge that we need to be watching carefully and looking at in terms of how we progress and how we move forward. Okay, next slide. What are we going to do? How are we going to make it happen? Well, I'll tell you, one of my phrases at the end of the day is, we're either all in. What's the old phrase? You either hang separately or hang together. You hang together or hang separately, one of the two. We need to be all in. And by all in, I mean that we're in this together. We have to figure out how we're going to operate differently, how we're going to function differently. And a part of those questions are going to be, we're going to constantly be asking the question of need versus want. How many of you are parents? Okay. How many of you had the conversation with your children about, I know what you want, but this is what you need? Yeah, okay. I now have a 2.5-year-old grandson who doesn't talk a lot because I've already given him the need-want talk. He didn't take well to it at 2.5. Of course, his 36-year-old father didn't take well to it either, but that's beside the point. We are going to be in some serious conversations. And we're going to have some serious decisions to make. Some of them are not going to be comfortable. Some of them are going to be difficult because we're going to have to ask the questions of ourselves and refer back to our students, our clients, our customers, and we have several of those different. What is the real need that we can fill? Not what do we want to do? Because quite frankly, community colleges over the years have had the luxury of being the golden child in terms of, my golly, they serve the community and they do these kinds of things and here's what happens. But we're going to have to get down to a productivity standard where we say, what does the community actually need to fulfill a need that we can fill that gap that they're going to fund? I don't think anybody would argue that state legislatures for the last 15 years have started to divest themselves of funding higher education. Would anybody debate that, want to debate that at all? So legislatures are moving away from funding higher education, or they're moving towards outcomes-based funding, saying, I'm only going to pay you for these things. Is that not a challenge? That's a different structure in terms of how we work and how we function. The community is also saying, you know what, there's many people in the community who say, if you want a higher education degree, you know, the student ought to pay for it. We're not going to pay for it anymore. So we're looking with some realities that are coming at us that we need to look each other in the eye and look at where we're at and what we're doing, say, okay, how are we going to operate differently? How are we become more productive? But we're either all in it together or not. And you know what's really exciting about CWI? In the state of Idaho, CWI is actually looked at as a solution. I don't know if you realize it or not, but when you talk to people around the state of Idaho, CWI is held up as the model. The model transformational college, the model of how you do things differently, the model of how you change, not necessarily a good thing, but how you change annually, the model of how you restructure yourself, the model of how you move. We are being referred to in the state of Idaho as the model. We are the solution. And quite frankly, the reason I'm so proud to serve with you all is because what we have here are people that are energized by change and are willing to embrace in the conversation about change and where we're going and what's happening. One of the big things that we have in our favor is the strategic plan that we put in place. And this is key to us in terms of, our first strategic plan was a 5-year plan, and we actually finished it in 18 months. That's how quick we work. So we've developed another strategic plan which was very inclusive. We brought a lot of people in, and we talked about what we're doing, and we put together another plan that has core themes to it. And those core themes, quite frankly, again, revolve around what the Board of Trustees started with as well. Student success. Number one priority is student success. Where's Patrick? Patrick, how are we doing on student success, recruitment, retention?
I think we're doing well.
Oh, we're doing good. Okay, never mind. What other kinds of things did we do just recently in the last several months to increase our student success as far as recruitment and what we're doing?
The advising transformation, we combined a couple of all of the different advisors. I'm getting a sign
Here, I've got a slide for you in case you miss it.
I'm getting a sign that I'm not loud enough. So every department that is in enrollment in student services has experienced some change. Thank you. And so we'll start with advising. So we took the 3 different advising and career teams and combined them into one. As we do that, we're using a new appreciative advising model, and we're going to get every student on a track from when they step in the door. We're going to plan out all of their courses until they graduate, and then hopefully even next year we're going to be able to design their plan for their 3rd and 4th years if they want to go to BSU, ISU, etc. So that's one thing. Another thing over in student affairs, we have our first ever Dean of Students. Yes, she's probably here somewhere.
Is she here?
She is.
There she is. Hey, give her a big hand. There we go.
All the way from Oregon. She walked in and had some new ideas, and we're moving on those. it's been amazing. We also have a new service model in the one-stop locations. So we used to have 0 registrar staff in each of the one-stop locations. Now we've got 2. We used to have 1 financial aid officer in each of the one-stop locations. Now we have 2. We're also adjusting the hours to actually catch up to the rest of the institution. We're pretty much the last people on the bus. We've already got night courses, and you know the help desk, computer help desk, is open nights and weekends, and so we're going to that model as well for One Stop. So behind the scenes, we've also seen some changes in the financial aid staff and the registrar staff, just kind of shuffling people around. Certainly offices across the valley, we're moving some folks. But we're reassigning those teams as well to address some efficiencies as well.
Give Patrick a hand. He had no prep time. I told Patrick and Brenda and Dave and a few others, I said, sit around the room wherever you want to. I'm going to call on you. And 2 of them started to leave the building, but that was, I think it's important that we are able to just talk about what we're doing and how we're doing it and not have it always prepped up and structured. Let me share one other sidebar comment about outcomes-based funding when it talks about student services. CWI has adopted an initiative, Hispanic initiative, to recruit Hispanics throughout the Western Treasure Valley. That's going to become more and more important because if you've looked at outcomes-based funding, where are the states that have instituted outcomes-based funding? One of the unintended consequences of outcomes-based funding is that if you're only paid on degree, certificates, and diploma, the universities immediately move to a structure where they say, if you can't graduate in 3 or 4 years, I don't want you as a student. So they call the community colleges up and say, hey, we need you to register over here because we're going to reject about 2,800 students that we don't think we can get through in a timely fashion. Typically, the students that are rejected are minority, at-risk, low income, all those that have no other opportunities. We will play a stronger and stronger role with short-term courses, degrees, certificates, remediation by immediately getting involved in the kinds of recruitment for those kinds of populations to help them. We will not move forward as a country. We will not move forward as a state. We will not move forward as the Western Treasure Valley if we are not inclusive and understand we are all in it together. CWI is committing resources as well as we're asking for more resources for not only the Hispanic initiative, but for these kinds of advising, the counseling and recruiting that will help us be inclusive and bring all students to have opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. So that's very, very important. Brenda, we want to talk about next, one of our core themes is instructional excellence and some of the things that are happening in that. Do you want to come up or do you want to just yell?
Well, I can ask my team to help me out too. It would have been nice that I had preparation.
There's no preparation for this. Let me help you. Do we have a mic, roving mic? Oh, no, we don't. Okay, let me help you out. Okay. Cue card number 1 is instructional alignment. We have restructured our instructional alignment. And how's that helped us?
Well, I think that it allows us to really allow our instructional expertise to be a cohesive group. And so I think that when you get all of the right people sitting around the table and having conversations, that all of the creative possibilities start to emerge. And I think that if we're going to start to do things differently, we really need a number of people from a number of different backgrounds with different expertise.
Well, one of the real keys, what you've done with the CTE and with the academics and putting them in the same room and starting to have conversations about, there's synergism. If we start talking about students and not just programs, we get synergism in terms of moving students forward, figuring out a way to do it. One of the real downsides on some of the programs that we've had in CTE, I'll take further, is the fact like we have business. We have a business CTE, we have an accounting CTE, and we have an academic CTE, and we have an academic accounting, or academic accounting degree thing. Guess what? You can take all these things over here and none of them transfer. So we're having the conversations as to how do we put those together and how do we align those kinds of programs to better serve students, to make sure that students are advantaged in this whole process. And quite frankly, with our population base, which is a lot of students that don't believe that they ought to be at college, you have students that want to kind of ease into it and try and figure out how they're going to do that. In the opening slide, one of the key things we had was the 12 new degree programs, which are critical as well in providing greater opportunities. I'm going to tell you one quick story, and I'm sure you heard it 100 times. When we talk about our students are a gamut. Of course, the average age is 28, 27, 28, whatever it is. But in that 28, that's like when you income average a lot of other things. Graduation, how many remember graduation, this last one, just the photos that we had? We had a 17-year-old graduate and we had an 84-year-old graduate. Of course, the average is 27. So how do you serve a 17-year-old and an 84-year-old? Huge difference in terms of how we do that and how we meet that need. I mean, it is amazing. Now, we're moving also as well that we are now accredited. We have a number of accredited programs under our title, under our structure, and that's something that we'll be looking at an ongoing basis as well. Another thing that we've done is not only in the remediation of English, which has been phenomenal. Laura, I saw Laura earlier. Laura, the English has blown the lid off of how we remediate English students, has it not? And it's actually a model in terms of how we move students through efficiently and effectively. I know. I'm sure there's other people in the room that are now paying attention. God, will he call on me next? I got people that are going, moving to the back. We are doing some phenomenal things. Now, we've got a math lab as well, the Math Solutions Center. That's going to be our next one where we handle the remediation problem and move students through faster and quicker. We have an A&P, Anatomy Physiology Lab. We did lab expansions. I mean, we've got some phenomenal things going on, and when I say that CWI is viewed as a solution, that's why we're viewed as a solution. I've got 2 other presidents in the state that have looked at me and said, wow, are you fortunate or what? You actually have a group, faculty, staff, administration that are exhilarated by change, that are energized by doing something different. And that's a huge breakthrough in terms of what we're doing. Brenda Fisher, are you here? Brenda. And she's going, oh no, are you kidding? Talk to me about Emerging Scholars Program.
Oh, great. I'm really excited about this new program. It is a unique opportunity that we now have for faculty to recognize students who show a potential, demonstrated potential to excel at the course level. And then this also is we're hoping to encourage persistence and retention through awarding a scholarship for the academic year, the following academic year that this is awarded. Along with the scholarship, we are going to have additional academic support come alongside this group of students throughout the academic year. We had 10 students selected last year. This year we're excited to also include CTE programs and students. So keep your eyes out for information on how you can nominate and participate in this exciting new program. So
Give her a hand. Justin Vance, are you here? Here, stand up so I can't see you anyway. Turn the house lights up. Tell us about ROTC.
So this past year, we've formalized the ROTC partnership. So our students now have the opportunity to become professional military officers if they're interested in the military. That comes with scholarships, extra pay benefits, etc.
Great, give him a hand. Steve Lindsay. Steve, you here? No, he's in McCall. Biology 112 still. They started in June. They were supposed to be back in July, and they didn't return. It's now a 12-credit program. Anyway, that's another exciting program that we've got going. Okay, again, it's great to see the grants that are being awarded and the increase in grants that we're doing. Eric Anderson, talk to me about Micron Automotive Technology.
So Micron.
Huh? Oh, Steve Lindsay, good, great, all right. No, Steve, no, wait a minute. I mentioned Biology 112 and the great success you had in McCall with the Biology 112.
Thank you, Dr.
Steve is my resident expert. My wife and I get the opportunity with the English program. They have a writing awards. And some of you may or may not know, but they only give, and I include my wife because she's much better than I at certain things. And we get to pick the finalists. Or no, we get the finalists, so we get to pick the first and second place. And every year, I get, one of them is in research. One of the writings, one's in nonfiction, fiction, so forth and so on. So I bring all these things home and have my research papers home, and I bring it. Steve has been gracious enough that I would call him up and I say, I have no clue what this research paper is talking about. And he would be my resource where we could sit down and say, oh, whether it's valued research or what it is and how it works and so forth and so on. So, Steve, thank you for doing that too, and thank you for taking those students to McCall in the Biology 112. Give him a hand. Okay, Eric, Micron.
So in the last year, Micron has hired 14 automotive students to make mechanical repairs there. They work 14 days a month and start at $50,000 a year.
One of the other conversations that we're going to have is called the vacant fourth quarter. I think it's called the vacant fourth quarter. The Innovation College talked about it at length on YouTube and several other. One of the things we're going to look at all our programs, academic, professional, technical, every program that we've got. The vacant fourth quarter is that connection where the student actually works in the industry in a co-op, in an internship, and an externship, actually has work experience, because according to Gordon Jones, the College of Innovation at BSU, one of the new screening techniques is not whether you have a degree. It's not whether you have a four-year degree or a master's degree or whatever it is. The way they're separating in a lot of the industry now is, do you have any work experience? And that's how they do the first screening. So if you don't have any work experience, you could have a PhD, everything, and if you don't have any work experience, then you're screened out in the first round. So one of the things we need to be looking at all of our programs, not that we're offering PhDs, but one of the things we need to be looking at all our programs is, do they have work experience, practical hands-on experience? I had a great conversation the last 2 days with the Power Sports program and those people in terms of turning that program to a different focus and function. And one of the keys is going to be practical application with business and industry. At the last JFAC, several JFAC meetings that I've been at, one of the things that I've constantly stressed is, we have 380 companies that sit on 38 advisory boards. And guess what? we don't need any more advisors. We need partners. We need business and industry to come in here with our programs and help support our programs, be committed to our programs, because they're going to hire them. And that's what we need in terms of making the transformation and making the transition to the next step. Not just in career and technical, but also in a lot of our academic programs. We need the people in here that are going to employ them at the end of the day. And one other quick thing while I'm thinking about it, not that I think about things that deeply, but one of the things, I'm really worried about my 2.5-year-old grandson. Because, we had Generation X, and then we had the millennials, and then there's another generation in there somewhere, I don't know what to call them, and now this last generation coming up is Z. Generation Z, have you heard about Generation Z? How many have heard about Generation Z? That's this last group coming through. My grandson's 2.5 and the alphabet's gone. I'm not sure what they're going to call him. Okay, community connections. One of our big keys is going to be our relationship with government, employers, and educators. Our relationship with government, business, and industry is going to really determine our success and help drive us in the future. So when we talk about us, we, all of us, have a responsibility and accountability for making sure that we have the kind of connections with our community, our business, our educators, and our government relations to make that work. Okay, organizational stewardship is, we're almost there. Okay, organizational stewardship. Accountabilities. Yes, we're going to be asked to be more accountable and more responsible. We're going to be challenged with new accountability factors. And what I talked about earlier about need versus want, we're going to have to really take a hard look at ourselves about what do we want versus what do our communities need and what do we need to provide. Success is finding a need and filling it. Entrepreneurs and innovators, the first thing they do is find a need and fill it. And that's how they become successful. We are going to have to continually have that conversation. Again, I want to get back to, we're going to be inclusive. We're going to be inclusive with our community, and it's important that we recruit across the board. It's important that we don't become, even if we are driven into outcomes-based funding, which I have a strong sense we probably will be. We want to make sure that we're still recruiting all people across the board, all our community. And we need to become more representative of what our community looks like as well. Okay, next steps. We've got to work smarter. We've got to, and I'm not talking about working longer or harder. Well, harder depends on how you look at it. Somebody once told me, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of you in this room that I so admire because you love what you do. And you love what you do to a point that it's not work. It's a passion. It's a dedication. It's a commitment. And it's a commitment beyond just, well, I have this job to do. I want to make sure I make a difference. And that's why CWI has made a difference throughout. There's a phrase that I want to use. Let me think. Leadership. Many of you think, well, the president should handle that. Well, cabinet will make that decision. Well, executive team will make that decision. The deans will make that decision. The faculty senate ought to make those decisions. You know, if we truly believe that we're all in it together, leadership is not determined by title. One of my strongest recruiters at Treasure Valley was a custodian. Literally, a custodian was one of my strongest recruiters when I was at Treasure Valley 35 years ago. And by the way, Mitch, I don't want that photo going around anywhere either. Mitch went over to Treasure Valley and found a photo on the wall of me 35 years ago. I get up every morning and look in the mirror and say, who the hell is that? Leadership is not determined by title. And if we can embrace that concept that leadership is determined by outcomes, and everybody has the opportunity to create greater outcomes for the people that surround them. I don't care where you work at CWI. I don't care what job you have at CWI. I don't care what your title is at CWI. I truly don't. If you're a leader, I'll know it because I'll hear about it. And if you're a leader, your colleagues will hear about it too. And the community will hear about it. Leadership is not determined by title. It is determined by outcomes. And as we act together as a unified group, you will find that we will become the model for all the communities in terms of where that is at. Now, I have a formula for you. Is it up there? Patrick, where are you again? Patrick developed this formula for inclusiveness. I'd love to tell you what it is, but I will defer to Patrick to tell you what this is. Who are the math majors in the room? Anybody want to have a go at it? I got 3 math majors who are going there. What the heck is that? Patrick, where are you? No, come here. Speak into my collar.
No, I did not develop this. Supervisor a couple years ago did. And I think it hits on our first objective of our strategic plan, advancing student success. And it hits on everything that Bert's talking about. Unfortunately, I don't have a bouncing ball, but I hope we can all follow here. So the E stands for enrollment. So we'll just go one at a time. Enrollment equals the sum of the functions of all of the admissions activities from the first to the last over time, plus the sum of the functions of all of our retention activities from the first to the last over time, plus a student's time to degree. And so I shared this with my staff a couple of months ago, and they've really taken it to heart. And just one thing that I want to share with you about what they're doing. Right now we've got this big empty part here because they're all out, getting our students scheduled and all of those sorts of things right now. But because of some of the changes that they've made, that they asked for, that they've implemented, we compared year over year, last week's service level in the one-stops to this year, and we served more students last week and reduced the wait time in line by 3 minutes because of some of the changes that they're making.
Patrick's brand new with us. He's only been, Patrick, you've been on board how long? 6 months. 6 months. Einstein took 12 years to come up with E equals MC squared. I'm dying to hear where you're going to be. Didn't we have was it Michelle Bennett? Wasn't there a quote? Did I go over the top of that somewhere?
Scripps Media Arts.
Scripps Media Arts. Is Michelle here? Michelle. Tell us about Scripps Media Arts. I'm sorry, I apologize. I jumped a cue card on him. Give me your classroom voice, not your outside voice. Give me your classroom.
So we're really excited. We have a new program in communication, media arts and marketing department. And we've worked with industry, Scripps Media, with Woo! And also several radio stations. We collaborated with them for over a year. They're helping to fund some of the aspects of our program, giving us cameras, etc. Starting this fall, their director of creative is teaching our intro to video class. Their director of digital is teaching our media storytelling class. And their director of news is teaching Com 101 this semester and writing for television production in the spring. So I'm excited. Shelley Moore is my new partner in crime in our school, wherever Shelley is. And I love that she's a data girl.
Data girl?
She's amazing.
So you refer to her as Data girl?
She's so smart, so I go out and do my thing and she figures it out.
Stay standing for just a minute. You, Johnny, Jimmy, and by the way, Michelle, who's the faculty that are leading the business students, international business students, who's advising that group? And Skills USA, where's the Skills USA? Those of you involved in Skills, stand up. There's leaders all over, stand up. And by the way, just as a quick, have stand up, okay? There's another club, give them a hand. I did not cover, there's no way in this 45 minutes or hour, whatever we have, to cover all the programs that faculty are leading and actually doing amazing things with students on the national and international level. Again, Laura with English and with the writing group, we've got people all over campus. We've got leaderships everywhere. I do have a quick story about Johnny rowing and Jimmy. Since Michelle has kind of got buried in the media arts, Johnny and Jimmy are now doing the speech and debate. So we refer to that speech and debate team now as Jimmy Johns. Fast and Furious. Okay. If I have not relayed this to you, I am so proud to be a part of the CWI family and the leaders that are here, because I really view you all as leaders. I am confident, and every day I'm reassured by meeting and going around when I walk about and meet different people. I'm confident that we have the resources and we have the ability to meet any challenge that we're faced with. I'm confident that it doesn't matter what the state of Idaho throws at us. I'm confident that no matter what business and industry throws at us, and I'm confident that no matter what the community is asking for, that we will rise to the occasion as long as we stand together. And I'm confident that we will stand together because I've seen what's happened the last 8 years, which has outperformed any college, any campus I've ever been on. And I've been on a few. And it is amazing to me that as a startup company, and I will refer to us as a startup company, we are having the success that we have after only 8 years. I've never seen a group of people with a can-do attitude like this group. And, as Zig Ziglar used to say, can-do attitude and a want-to desire. You want to do it. You want to make it happen. And it's almost like, tell me what we can't do. Just tell me what we can't do. And we'll be doing it next week. And that's what it's all about. I really want to thank all of you for coming out this morning. I apologize for the step-down thing. I want to thank our board members, and Dwight, thank you for coming. This is kind of the end of the State of the College address as it is. We're going to go to our awards and recognition right away. The community people, if you want to stick around, that's fine. But otherwise, thank you. Thank you for a great year, a start of a new year. And I'm looking forward to graduation of 2018 because we're going to have another great celebration with a record number of graduates and degrees, certificates, and diplomas. Give yourself a hand. Thank you very much.